Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable people get when you say, "I actually like being alone"? They tilt their head, smile politely, and sometimes look concerned, as if you just admitted something sad. It is almost as if enjoying your own company sounds like a confession instead of a preference. And here's what most people do not realize. The discomfort in their reaction often reveals something about them. When someone is at ease without constant noise, it quietly challenges those who are not. It forces them to face a question they might be avoiding. Why does silence feel so threatening? We're taught, very subtly, that being alone must mean something is wrong. If you're by yourself, you must be lonely. If you stay home on a Saturday night, you must be missing out. But loneliness and solitude are not the same experience. Loneliness is when you crave connection and cannot find it. Solitude is when you choose space and feel restored by it. On the outside, both can look identical. On the inside, they're worlds apart. One feels like rejection, the other feels like alignment. And if you have ever felt calm in your own space while others assumed you were unhappy, you've already lived that difference. There's also a biological layer to this. Every brain has a preferred level of stimulation. For some people, especially those who lean introverted, the brain is already highly active at baseline. Research suggests they require less external input to feel mentally engaged. So when the environment becomes loud and socially demanding, their nervous system tires more quickly. Being alone doesn't feel empty, it feels regulated. It feels like returning to a natural rhythm. In a culture that celebrates constant interaction, that rhythm can look unusual, but unusual does not mean unhealthy. Another layer is the relationship you have with your own thoughts. Many people struggle with silence because it amplifies whatever they've been avoiding: regret, anxiety, self-doubt. That's why distractions are so addictive. There was a study where participants were asked to sit alone with their thoughts for several minutes, and some of them chose to give themselves a mild electric shock rather than remain in silence. That detail is uncomfortable but revealing. For many, stillness is harder than pain. So when you say you enjoy being alone, you are indirectly revealing that you can sit with your own mind without immediately escaping it. That's not social failure. That's psychological tolerance. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a woman named Sarah. She goes to work events, laughs at the right moments, makes polite conversation, and comes home completely drained. One evening, she decides to skip a gathering and instead cooks dinner slowly, listens to music, and writes in her journal. By the end of the night, she feels clear and steady. The difference is not that she hates people. The difference is that one environment required performance and the other allowed authenticity. That contrast is what many solitude-loving people recognize. It's not about rejecting connection. It's about protecting energy. But here's where we need honesty. Sometimes what feels like a preference for solitude is actually a shield. If you've been rejected or misunderstood, being alone can feel safer than risking that pain again. So ask yourself something direct. When you turn down invitations, do you feel empowered or relieved? Empowerment feels grounded. Relief can sometimes signal avoidance. There's no shame in either answer, but clarity matters. Solitude that strengthens you is healthy. Solitude that hides you can quietly shrink your world. There's also a truth that makes some people uneasy. When you're comfortable being alone, you become harder to pressure. If you're not afraid of an empty room, you're less likely to tolerate disrespect just to keep someone around. If you don't depend on constant validation, you are less vulnerable to manipulation. Independence removes leverage, and that kind of emotional independence can feel intimidating in social environments built on approval and comparison. Interestingly, people who are at ease alone often build stronger relationships. Not more relationships, but stronger ones. When you don't need someone to rescue you from loneliness, you choose partners and friends more carefully. You value depth over noise. You look for emotional safety instead of attention. That changes the quality of your connections. You're not attaching out of fear. You're connecting out of desire. And that shift is subtle but powerful. Social media complicates this even further. We live in a world where visibility is often mistaken for worth. The more present you appear, the more connected you seem. But constant comparison erodes self-trust. When you spend intentional time alone, you reduce that comparison loop. Your identity has space to stabilize without constant feedback. But here's a harder question. If you can't sit alone for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone, is that connection or discomfort with yourself. There's also the exhaustion that comes from constant self-monitoring. Many people leave social gatherings tired, not because they dislike people, but because they were adjusting themselves the entire time. Filtering opinions, softening edges, editing personality. That subtle performance consumes energy. Solitude removes that layer. You're not managing impressions. You're not competing for attention. You're simply present. And being present without performance is deeply restorative. Still, if you only feel real when you're alone, that may be a sign to seek relationships where you don't have to perform at all. So, the psychology of enjoying solitude is not about being antisocial. It's about regulation, self-awareness, emotional tolerance, and autonomy. But it also demands self-honesty. Are you building a rich inner life, or are you building walls? Are you choosing quiet because it nourishes you, or because it protects you from risk? Those questions are not meant to accuse you. They're meant to sharpen your awareness. Now, let me leave you with something even more direct. If everyone disappeared tomorrow and you were left completely alone, would you feel peaceful? Or would you feel terrified? Your answer says a lot about your relationship with yourself. I want to hear your thoughts. When you spend time alone, do you feel stronger, calmer, clearer, or do you feel restless? Share your experience in the comments, because your honesty might help someone else understand their own mind. If this perspective challenged the way you think about solitude, like the video so more people can see it. And share it with someone who believes being alone automatically means being lonely. Subscribe for more psychology insights that help you understand human behavior more clearly.